Okay, everyone, let's grab our seats. It's officially 8:30 p.m. I got to make a quick announcement. Next week, the church here that we have our meeting at this facility, December 14th. They are kind of commandeering the entire church. So look on our Facebook page to see if we're going to have a meeting here. It might be downstairs in the lower level, might be across the street at the American Legion Hall or whatever. If not, we'll be just closed and missed a week. So we'll play it by ear and see what we can put together. We like to keep it running, but we are reminded that this is not our facility. So be mindful of it and protect it, because it is that important to not only us, but everybody else that comes before us and after us. With that, we have the world's greatest chairperson. Let's give a warm welcome to Brian, see what he's got for us.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Brian, and I'm an alcoholic. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday right here at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. That's 301 North Main Street in Doylestown, PA. The food and the fellowship for this group starts at 8 o'clock, and the speaker comes on at 8:30. We have a business meeting for this group, meets every Saturday, 7 p.m. to 7:30, so feel free to come early and join us if you want to get involved with some service. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all our speakers so that others can benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. If there's anybody that's new at this meeting for the first time or visiting from out of town that would like to introduce yourselves on a first name basis, so we can welcome you. Yes. Ken. Welcome. Welcome. Anybody else? That's it? Oh, in the back there, yeah.
Everybody stand up.
Dan. Welcome. Yeah.
I'm Chris. I'm an alcoholic.
Chris. Welcome. Anybody else? We get everybody? Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with a working knowledge of the 12 steps and who is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. So we got people willing to sponsor here. If you are new, hang out with us after the meeting. There'll be a group of us breaking down the meeting. Just grab somebody. We'd love to talk with you, get you into the solution a little bit. Are there any announcements from the floor for the good of AA? Yeah, Nikolai.
Nick, I'm an alcoholic.
Nick.
One thing during the 7th tradition, we have a Venmo stuff here. There's also a QR code in the back if you want to make a donation. Come see me. I have it on my phone. We're back there on the table. This next Friday night in Telford, the Indian Valley Group AA is celebrating its 44th year. We have an anniversary party at 7 o'clock. It's all free. Tons of great food, speakers, Sobriety countdown, all that good stuff. And then at the end of the month, a New Year's party in Percy, Virginia and Dill Street at St. Andrews in Percy. 2 speakers, start at 7:30, goes until the ball drops. So I have flyers for both of it. Come see me if you want information. Thank you. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. Is anybody else? Anything going on? Okay, a couple of quick announcements from this group. This group does have a sister group, which is a big book study meeting. It meets right up the road Thursdays at 7:30 at Salem UCC Church. That's 186 East Court Street in Doylestown. The coffee for that meeting's on at 6:15, so again, feel free to show up early, join us. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs to help those who cannot afford them can put their donations in that jar on the back table marked Big Book and CD Donations. All CDs are available free of charge. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got a YouTube channel that we post all the speakers from this group. We also post speakers from a meeting we have Monday at 6 o'clock, speaker step discussion meeting. This group also has a Facebook page. As Ron mentioned, we'll post our happenings. If you're not following us on Facebook, if we have some kind of disruption next week, that you can check us there. We'll have information on it. We post events, workshops. We have other groups will post happenings in the area for AA. So a good resource to have to stay tied in. And with that, I'm going to bring Paul up here. He's going to read our Just for Today Prayer of Recovery. Let's give a warm welcome to Paul.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Paul. I'm an alcoholic. Welcome home. This is Just for Today prayer of recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And with that, let's give a warm welcome for Nick to read the preamble.
Good evening, my name is Nick, I'm an alcoholic, and welcome home. The AA Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes, and our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Okay, now with that, we have the Toronto Tornado, all the way from Canada, Kara, to read our 12 Steps of Recovery. Let's give her a warm welcome.
If we're not laughing, we're not having fun, right, guys? My name's Kara. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic, and welcome home, y'all. The AA 12 Steps of Recovery. Number 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Number 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Number 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Number 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Number 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Number 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Number 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Number 8, made a list of persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Number 9, make direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Number 10, continue to take personal inventory when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Number 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and to carry that out. And number 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Now Brian is going to come up and introduce our speaker. Woohoo!
Okay, this group does have a 7th tradition. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, we'll see that the basket makes its way around. There are no dues or fees for AA membership, but we do have expenses. Your contributions do help us to cover the cost of food, rent, big books, workshops, the refreshments we put out, so we do appreciate it. There's absolutely no smoking on the church property. Again, we have a good working relationship with the church. You know, we're very lucky to have this beautiful facility to hold our meeting in every week, and they really just ask that we keep the premise clean. So be considerate of that as you're coming and going from the meeting. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. And now to introduce our speaker for tonight, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group, on loan to us from the Falston Speaker Group. Please help me welcome Greg G.
Thank you. Alcoholic named Greg. My home group's the Boston Speaker Meeting. Meets in Boston, Maryland, 6 o'clock on Mondays. It's a speaker meeting much like this. My sobriety date is January 31st of 2017. Not my first sobriety date, not my second sobriety date. It's a true honor to be here. I am the backup speaker, though. My buddy Mark, a week ago, asked if I could, what I was doing on Saturday night, next Saturday night last week. And I said, usually just go to the Kingsville meeting, and he I guess he gave his number to Ron, and then I found out it was kind of a, you guys take your AA serious here, suit and tie and all that. And I was excited about that. Now, I went out and bought my first suit for this. 62 years old, first suit. Went to the place, had them fit it and everything, and, what a good deal, for fun and for free, right? I've been taught very well what to do in AA and what not to do. I'm going to try to keep it to what I was like, what happened, and what I'm like today, and not my opinion on a lot of stuff, and not my ideas on a lot of crap. I was born and raised in Long Beach, California, and I was born to an alcoholic family. My dad was one of us and never recovered from this disease and died from this disease, I believe. Not real sure, but kind of lost contact with him, 30 years ago, and just assumed that he had passed away. But so my mom and I'm an only child. It was only just me and Mom. I was a mama's boy when I was little. I'm still a mama's boy. And in the end of my story, I'll talk about how I get to take care of my mama now, and what an honor that is. It was just me and Mom. So around 10, my dad had gotten a job promotion, and we moved to Phoenix, Arizona. And my dad's drinking got out of hand, and my mom, basically me and my mom left my dad in Phoenix, Arizona, and that was it. And we moved back to Long Beach. And, I did okay. I was one of those kids that always needed to be on Ritalin or something. I couldn't sit still in school. I had a lot of problems before I took my first drink. Spent a lot of time in the principal's office. Just couldn't focus, and, spent a lot of time, learning. From being with my mom now, I've learned a lot about my childhood and how much time I spent at psychologists and psychiatric help and doctors, and they were all trying to figure out what was wrong with me. I did okay in school. I played a lot of sports. We basically, I always hung out with the kids that like to have a good time, and, sometime in junior high, I guess around 7th or 8th grade, we decided it'd be a good idea to if you're familiar with Long Beach is like the concrete jungle. There's a liquor store on every corner, there's head shop on the other corner, there's everything you could ever want right there. And so we would get some old guy to go in and buy us some Boone's Farm wine, and that's where it all started for me. And we'd go to the high school football game. I lived a block away from the high school. I lived a couple blocks away from the junior high, and so I basically walked to school, my whole school, the whole time I was in school. I don't remember, that feel. I hear a lot of people talk about, they took that first drink and it was like they had their spiritual awakening and all that. I don't remember that. I just remember that I liked it. And it started out as simple as that. And so fast forward to 1986. In 1986, I had basically started venturing into LA and doing some stuff, other than alcohol. All my problems started with alcohol and ended with alcohol, and there was a lot of stuff in between, and I'll let you use your imagination. But there was an epidemic that hit in LA around 1982, and I was right in the middle of all that, and it was crazy. And so in 1986, I'd gotten to the point where, I kept selling the car and selling the TV and stuff like that. And I'd had my first daughter. I met my first wife in Long Beach, and we had my first daughter in Long Beach. And we, I'll never forget, we were at my stepdad's house, having Christmas or Thanksgiving, one of those holidays. I was really good at messing up all the holidays, because I figured they couldn't be too mad at me, right? And so I was really good at like messing up at the holidays. And so this one particular holiday, we were at my stepdad's and we were gonna go to my grandma's. And somehow, I have no idea how I pulled this one off, but I talked them all into letting me drive separate. So they all went to grandma's and I went back to Long Beach and did what I like to do. And I'll never forget that next morning, early that next morning, laying on the couch. That was about all that was left in the house. And my mom and my wife and my baby girl daughter came home. And that feeling of, the book talks about it, incomprehensive demoralization, and just not knowing what to do and not knowing what's going to happen, and just really, really struggling with alcoholism, really. November, December of '86. So probably the first couple weeks of 1987, my first wife was from Bel Air, Maryland, and so I had an opportunity to move to Bel Air, Maryland. So we did that. So I tried that geographical change. Did not work for me. Like the first job I had, the first people I met, everybody was doing the same thing that I like to do. And then I found Baltimore, and things got really bad. So I was sent. So basically, my first stop in AA was in 1990. I showed up in AA on a court slip. I'd gotten into some trouble and then gotten a DUI. And I came to, and I was sitting in this little jail cell in Aberdeen, Maryland, and made a conscious decision, me of my own, that I wasn't going to drink and do all that other crap anymore. And then I got sentenced to AA, and so I decided I wasn't going to drink and do all that stuff, and I really couldn't because I was on a monitor system, and had to go to AA twice a week. And I started to meet some really happy, sober people. And it was attractive, just like what was going on here. It's very attractive. So I got sober. And basically, for the next almost 9 years, I sat around in AA. I remember having a sponsor, but I don't remember telling me that if I didn't read that book and do those steps, I wasn't going to stay. No matter how long I sat and drank your coffee and told everybody how damn good I was doing, I wasn't living by any spiritual principles. I wasn't, being honest all the time. I've been in the same trade since high school. I learned how to weld in high school, and I've been in the same trade my whole life. It's always provided me very well. I basically moved to Maryland, and in 1990 came to AA. In 1999, so in those years, I decided I had a friend that was doing some motocross stuff, and I got into motocross and did that. Started that in the 90s, and so I kind of felt like I had something to show for my money. Just basically telling myself a lot of things that weren't true is really what I was telling myself. And we had a great illustrious career racing and raced the whole Eastern Seaboard. And in 1999, I was out in Ohio racing, and all my buddies would have a beer after the races and stuff. And this one particular time, I just decided I could drink like a gentleman, you know, and the book talks about it. So I tried that, and that set off the mental and the physical compulsion and all that. And so maybe for about 2 weeks, I drank when you were supposed to and all that crap we tell ourselves. And shortly after, I was back doing the same thing I was doing 9 years previous, but tremendously worse. And that isn't the first time I experienced the progression of this disease. And so what happened is from 1999 to 2001, I completely destroyed everything good and decent in my life. And I had my second daughter by then, so in 2001, I didn't know what to do, and basically was to the point where I just wanted to die every day. And so my mom had asked me and begged me to go back to AA. And so I walked back into AA in, I think it was like March or April of 2001. And I went to a local meeting, and I was, basically sitting there, and I would walk around with my head down, just didn't really want to live anymore. And this guy came up to me after the meeting, and he asked me if I had a big book, and I didn't, so he got me a big book, and he gave me his phone number, and he said, if you want to go to some meetings, you can meet me across the street at the grocery store there, and I'll be glad to have you go with me or whatever. And it sounded like a lot, like he told me a little bit about what he did. So I waited a week and drank for another week, and then went back to that same meeting. And I don't know that George had ever been to that meeting 2 consecutive, I think it was a Wednesday night meeting in Bel Air. But he just so happened to be there that next week, and he didn't come up and try to sell me on this thing or anything. He just came up and made sure I still had his phone number. And so I called George finally, because the level of desperation had gotten to the point where I knew I needed to do something about my problem. And so I started running around with this guy, and his home group was in Catonsville, which is near Baltimore. And I thought that was kind of odd, because we'd drive by like 30 meetings to get to this meeting in Catonsville. But he took me to Catonsville, and I met some good, sober people that were in AA taking it serious, much like some of the people I met tonight. And so I ran around with this crowd of crazy Baltimore AA people for the next 8 years or so, or about the next 6 years. And then, and got good and sober and did those steps, and I was sponsoring people, and was, I had this priceless gift that was given to me, and I was a solid member of AA. I was right in the middle of AA. And looking back on my life, this is the only time that I've ever been successful in my life, is when I'm right in the middle of AA and doing the 12 steps and passing this thing on, and all the things that are required for me. So stayed good and sober. So then I met my second wife in 2006, and she lived in York, Pennsylvania. And so I had my third daughter by then, and my little girl was having some troubles because my ex-wife wasn't really, I think she was going a little crazy or whatever. But anyhow, my little girl wasn't doing good in school, and so the school called me and said that we are not sure what's going on at home. She was living with her mom, and so I, being good and sober, and I basically went to court and took my little girl from my ex-wife, and I moved her to York with Cindy, and she started 3rd grade over, and I truly believe to this day it may have been one of the best decisions I ever made for that little girl. She's one of the most amazing little girls you could ever want to meet. absolutely incredible. All three of my daughters are incredible. They watched their dad in and out of AA his whole life and have always stuck right by me. But I moved to York, and I got right in the middle of AA in York, had a home group, was sponsoring guys, because the group of people that I got sober with in Baltimore, they used to travel a lot. And it was awesome traveling here tonight. It brought back old memories, because we used to travel from, to Alexandria, Virginia one night, to York another night. I mean, we were just all over the place. These people that I ran around with in Baltimore, they were just amazing how they, it was an amazing journey. And this reminded me of it coming here tonight. So anyhow, got good and sober. I was doing the deal in York, and in 2009, I crashed really bad, and I ended up in the hospital in West Virginia. And I probably needed pain medicine, but I can't manage pain medicine. And so the problem is that they gave me that to go home with, and I probably should have had my wife manage that for me, but so that took me down quick. And so what happened is I was relapsing on pain medicine and wasn't telling anybody. And I don't know if you've ever tried to do that, but that gets hard. And I basically celebrated at a podium in York, probably my 8-year anniversary, telling everybody how damn good I was doing. And the guilt, shame, and remorse was killing me. And so not long after, I start drinking, and then, the whole thing starts. The giant. Don't wake up the giant, my good friend used to tell me. So Cindy moves to North Carolina with her sister, and my daughter and I moved back to Bel Air with my mom, and I basically become unemployable. So the progression of the disease by that point got me to the point where I would become so physically addicted to alcohol that I couldn't go an hour or two in between drinks. It was really bad. It scared the living crap out of me. But I couldn't stop, and couldn't work. I was basically just drinking myself to death. And shortly after that, around 2010, I got really sick, and I was bleeding out of places you're not supposed to bleed out of. And I go to the hospital, and they fix my stomach, and they detox me. And I get out of there, and I feel like I've been given a new lease on life. I beg Cindy back. Cindy comes back. We decide we're going to go to church, and we're going to do all these great things to stay sober. And so I just could not commit to coming back to AA right away. And so I basically the next 5 years, the trade was really good. Saved a bunch of money, paid off all my credit, bought a hill in Pennsylvania, built a house on that hill in Pennsylvania, built it up really good, because I like big, shiny things, and, love staying home with the wife instead of thinking about going to AA, like all that. It just makes me feel good, right? And so 2014, the house is built. And I get hurt at work. And same thing, get on pain medicine. So whether I'm in recovery or not, when I go to the hospital, if I'm not being honest and letting them know that I can't have pain medicine, you can't give me pain medicine, you can't send me home with pain medicine. That's what I've done in my recovery this time, because I've had some surgeries. As you can see, I don't have any front teeth. I'm getting ready to have more surgeries. And in the last 8 years, I've had surgeries, and And so basically I was honest with them when I started this whole process. So when they punch up my name on the computer screen, big red letters, no pain medicine, right? But anyhow, so I get on that, and so I lived in that house for 1 year. And by 2015, I'm right back to the same place I was at, 6 years previous to that. Unemployable. Cindy says I can't come home anymore. Sitting in my brand new driveway right in front of my brand new house. And so I moved back to Maryland with my middle daughter, and I destroyed their lives for a little while. And then in 2016, I go to my first rehab. And I went to this really cool rehab. So my daughter didn't know what to do with me. She takes me to the hospital and she just drops me off. And I'm talking about killing myself. And when you do that, they put you in this special room with this special person, right? And that special person, I'm looking at all the wires and stuff, holding up all the lights, and I'm trying to figure out how to grab one of those wires and wrap it around my neck and fall off the stool the whole time. And I wanted to die, and I couldn't die. And basically, what I've come to is that if God's not done with you, you won't die. And God was not done with me. And God sent in this social worker, and she asked me if I needed some help. And I said, yes, ma'am, I need some help. And so they arranged this rehab, and man, it was amazing. 2 days later, I got on an airplane, flew to Dallas, Texas, to this elaborate, amazing rehab. I mean, it had indoor swimming pools, and the guys were with the girls, and I mean, it was just the craziest place. 12 steps, I got a $40,000 big book from there. Read that big book while I was there, and I was determined that I was going to go back to AA as soon as I got out of there. And I wanted to leave, but there was nowhere to go in Dallas, Texas. But I did go to some good meetings in Dallas, and I heard the message of hope, and I heard the message of recovery. And since being in AA and being in recovery for some time, I knew the language. And I was determined that I was going to come back after that rehab and be a new guy and come back and get a one-day chip and do all the new guy stuff again, right? And I came back, and I had been working for myself. So years before I had started this firewood business, and that always got me by when I couldn't really go to my regular job. I could sell some firewood and get by or whatever, do some tree work or whatever. So I sold a bunch of firewood when I got out of rehab, and just was struggling with coming back to AA and being a new guy. I was struggling with that, and so I didn't. And so 2016, that was August of 2006. So I got out of rehab in March of 2016. Did okay for a couple months, just running on self-will the best I can. And in August of 2016, my little girl had to have this little procedure done, and me being the parent, they give me the pain medicine. So from August of 2016 to January 31st of 2017, a short 4 or 5 months right there, I took everything to a whole new level. It was amazing what happened to me. The progression of this disease is absolutely horrific in me. And I was doing things in places in Baltimore that I have no idea how I made it out of there. I have no idea. I'm truly convinced that God was not done with me, and that He really wanted me here tonight with you people, and man, I tell you, I get chills just thinking about some of the situations I was in, and I can honestly tell you, when I drive through Baltimore to go to Washington, D.C. to go to work, I thank God from the bottom of my heart every day for saving me from the gates of hell, because that's where I stood, right there in Baltimore. So 2017, January 31st of 2017. So the day before that, the 30th, I'm driving completely out of my mind. And a friend of mine that I was good friends with in AA calls me out of the blue that day. And he says, "Hey, Greg, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, Jeff, I want it to end and I don't know how to end it." And he says, "Well, why don't you go home and pack your stuff and come stay with me for a few days and I'll help you detox and we'll get to some meetings and stuff." And he lived in Glen Burnie. And I guess it was that time, and you never know when that time is when you're willing to do something different, right? And so I said, okay. And I went home, packed my stuff, went to Jeff's, flopped and twitched on his couch for 4 or 5 days, went to some meetings, got my one-day chip again at a meeting called Wrath of Grapes. It's in Glen Burnie, Maryland. And I became a new guy again. And from that point on, I have not looked back, and I am determined that this is my last stop. So a couple months go by, and so for the first couple years when I got sober this time, I didn't go back to my regular job in DC. I really felt like I needed to get to a meeting every day like a new guy. I needed to do some certain simple things on a daily basis, and it would have been distractive to drive to DC and back and do those. So I worked for myself with the firewood thing and got involved with some farms and had plenty to do for a couple years. And I truly believe that was exactly what I needed to do to get right back in the middle of AA. And I needed to be a new guy again, and I needed to act like a new guy. I needed to sit up front. I needed to shut my mouth and open my ears and all the things I was taught. And so a couple months go by, and Jeff, my friend that helped me get sober, was an electrician. So he came to a farm that I was working at and did some electrical work while I was doing some fence work or something. And so the customer paid him and he paid me, and we went back to my log yard, and Jeff got in his truck to go home. And so that was on a Sunday. And on Wednesday of that week, one of our other great friends called and said that they found Jeff dead on his couch on Wednesday. And then I come to find out that Jeff had not gone home. He had gone to Baltimore and went home and died on the couch that night, and he had been laying there for a few days. And this is how God works. So I'm talking to this customer about firewood, and I'm really shook up. And I'm telling him how I don't understand how this all works, and I'm just devastated by my dear friend passing away when I thought he was doing okay. The thing is that he rode with me from Carroll County, Maryland to Gettysburg and back, and I didn't pick up on the fact that he wasn't doing so well. I just missed it, and I felt it just really rocked me. And so what happened was, this customer I'm talking to, I'm telling her the story, and I don't really know them all that well. I know they're good people. I know they're good Christian people. And the next words out of her mouth is, "Can I pray with you on the phone?" And she helped me pray about Jeff's death, and it was just amazing. It was an amazing moment. And I think from that day on, I buckled down, and I really became very, very diligent and very, very serious about my recovery this time, because I know that could have so easily been me, and it so can easily be me. If I ever try to take my will back and think I can run the show again and all that stuff. Anyhow, I got a new home group. after I came back to Harper County, got a new home group, got a new sponsor, young sponsor that was on fire for AA, and started going through those steps again. And wrote that 4th step and did that 5th step, and went home and took the time to read 6 and 7 and made that 8-step list and started making amends again. And shortly after, because I was taught when I got sober with those Baltimore people, like my sponsor used to take me to a lot of institution commitments when I was new. And that was where I was allowed to talk. So George would take us to like Mercy Detox and the Salvation Army, and he would get, so he'd usually have a few new guys with him, and he'd be like, okay, you guys get 5 minutes each, and this is where you get to talk because you can't hurt anybody here. And so we would all, we didn't know nothing about recovery, so we'd talk about how our day was and our opinion on a bunch of stuff, and the guys in detox, they're all nodding out anyhow, so it didn't really matter what we said. And then the last 20 minutes of the meeting, George would talk about recovery. And so I learned how to talk about recovery and the importance of carrying this message to the sick and suffering and all the things that are important that save people's lives in this program. And so I started doing that. I started taking some of my, so I've had this institution commitment at the VA hospital in Perryville, Maryland since George gave that to me in 2001. And that was the other thing he'd do, is he'd take us to all these institutions and then he would give us a commitment and go get a new commitment. And so I basically, all the years I've been sober, I've had this commitment at Perry Point VA hospital, and nowadays I get to, and so COVID kind of messed that up. And then when they did let us back in there, they didn't turn the commitment back over to the groups. What they did is they turned it back over to the sponsors. So I got a phone call a few years ago after COVID, and I was able to have that commitment back. So Friday nights are my AA meeting that I take into the VA hospital. And so what I did, and for the first year or so, I went every Friday and got some friends to go or whatever. But what I decided to do is go to some groups and get the groups involved again. And so there's a couple groups that take care of a couple of the Fridays, and then I take care of the rest of the Fridays, and I get like a friend or somebody. I announce it at some of the meetings I'm at, and always get some people that want to come, and it's a good way to pass this thing on, And so I got that new home group, and I got that new sponsor, and went back through the steps, and have not looked back. And I truly believe that by getting back into the book, I was taught to read 2 pages a day out of that book, and I'm very consistent at that. Very consistent at saying the set-aside prayer, the 3rd step prayer, and the 7th step prayer. Those are my prayers that I just, studied and memorized, and they kind of lay the whole day out for me. Most of you are probably familiar with those prayers, but that way I'm not like having to think about what to pray for. Very consistent, very, God may show me what to do each day so I can, stay out of the way, So I do those prayers. I had that home group for a couple years, and then one of our old friends was running this speaker meeting in Kingsville, Maryland, and a couple of us went over there to help him support that, and then that became like a really big speaker meetings on Saturday nights, and I had the honor of getting speakers for that. I've gotten asked to do the speaker thing quite a bit because I have a good network of people, and that's important when you're getting speakers. So I've had the honor to do that. And then, so then when COVID hit, that ruined that meeting pretty much. And then it just started back up a couple years ago, I guess. My buddy Kenny my buddy Kenny's home group. I usually go to that on Saturday nights. But then they started a new speaker meeting on Monday nights at 6 o'clock in Ballston. And I became a member of that a couple years ago, and that's my home group now. But 6 months ago or so, they asked me to be the speaker getter for that meeting, and so I have the honor of doing that now. And it's a good way to, stay in touch with all my AA family, hearing about, and keeps me in service, gives me less time to think about me. And that's really the best time of my day is when I'm not thinking about me. So as time's gone on, I 4 or 5 years ago, my mom's getting old. She's just turned 91, and she was having some trouble driving. She was getting kind of lost sometimes and stuff. So, and she really needed somebody there. So, since 2015, I've never gone back to the house. Me and Cindy have kind of reconciled everything. She's getting ready to sell the house here in springtime maybe, and we're just gonna get divorced, and we're friends, but we just we've moved in separate directions. So I truly believe that's God's will too, because I don't really need to be in Stewartstown, PA. I need to be in Harper County, and so that's where my mom's at. So I've been with my mom for 3 or 4 years. And then finally I had to, basically tell Mom the car broke down because she was telling me she was not giving up her license. And I'm like, Ma, I'm getting worried about you. And so I just made up a story that the car broke down and it's not worth getting fixed. And so, had talked to my sponsor about that before I did that, but it worked. And so we got Mom not driving around anymore, but that meant that I had to do all the errands, right? I gotta go to the grocery store and get the mail and like the trash and like all that, right? And it's been a great way for me to be of maximum service. And I've been there for 3 or 4 years taking care of her now. And what an honor it is to be able to be there and listen to her and spend time with her. And we get along pretty damn good most of the time. I'm sure some of you experience this, but it's hard to watch the quality of life of somebody that you love get to the point where there's really not much of a quality of life except for sitting in front of a TV and reading a book all day and not being able to leave. She's got some osteoporosis problems that got her crippled up pretty good. But for the most part, she's reasonably happy most of the time. And I try to, try to have a good attitude when I'm around her. Some days I do that better than others. But last year was a rough year on her. She kept falling, and then she had to go into rehab, and then she went to the hospital and then to rehab, and then I just wasn't confident about bringing her home, so I put her in assisted living, and that was a frickin' mess. $7,000 a month mess, and I was like, this is crazy. She's gonna die in here. So a year ago on Halloween, I brought her home. And I have a company that comes and checks on her during the day while I'm working. And as I've gotten older, I only work some weeks 3 days, some weeks 4. I don't work 5 day weeks very often anymore. Traveling to DC has not gotten any easier. So I'm very fortunate to have the job I have with the company I'm with. They totally understand. So if you're in any kind of trade and you have some apprentices under you, I would like to let you know treat those apprentices good because you never know when they're going to become your boss. So the boss at the company I work for was my apprentice 25 years ago. And I treated him very well. And I get treated very well. And it's because of that principle. I'm very fortunate. I'm very, very grateful today. Grateful, thankful, and grateful. I try to stay thankful and grateful today. So in sobriety this time, I've been able to travel around a little bit. My buddy Kenny and I took a little road trip to Atlanta, Georgia. So I thought I had this girlfriend in Atlanta, Georgia, and I bought this plane ticket. And then I didn't have this girlfriend in Atlanta, so I still had the plane ticket. And I was like, I'm going to Atlanta. I don't even care. And then Kenny was like, hey man, I'd like to check out Atlanta. They got a good aquarium. And they got some good AA there. We went to some AA meetings at some clubhouses, and it was amazing. It was amazing. It was an amazing trip. We stood on top of this mountain called Stone Mountain. And I stood there, man, and I could just, it was so surreal, and it was so peaceful on top of this 1,000-foot piece of granite that sticks up out of the ground in Georgia that you would never know was ever there. And I would have known it wasn't there unless I started talking to somebody at the airport, because I'd never flown alone. And man, I'm at the airport and I'm like trying to figure out, I always had like a wife or somebody to tell me like, this is where we need to go. And so I'm trying to figure all this stuff out. And I don't know if you've flown out of Dulles Airport in Virginia. It's very confusing. You get on this train, you catch that train, you get to the airplane over there, and then it was just crazy. And then you get to Atlanta. I don't know if you ever flew through Atlanta. Lots of trains and buses, and so I'm like, man, I was like a fish out of water there. I was having a hard time. But so I talked to a lot of people. Said, hey, are you going to Atlanta? And they were like, yeah. So I just followed them. And I made friends with one of the guys, and he's the one that told me about this Stone Mountain. And so I would have never known about Stone Mountain. And me and Kenny got to go on the top of Stone Mountain, man, and have some time with God, and went to a couple clubhouses there, met some good new guys, I was taught very well how to pick out new guys. Got to buy a new guy a big book while I was there. I've been taught very well what to do in AA. I'm so thankful for my years in the Baltimore area in AA. Those people were doing this thing like their life depended on it, And I try to keep that in the forefront of my mind. That my life really does depend on what I do in AA. I've never had any quality of life like I have now. And so my daughters are 38, 36, and 25 now, and they are the most amazing, successful, beautiful daughters a man could ever want, and I'm truly grateful for the steps, the amends process, and being able to have them in my life today, because there was a time when they didn't really care much about what Dad was doing, nor were they interested in hanging out with Dad or anything like that. And so being in and out of AA and having gone through that amends process a couple times, so at the beginning, when I first got really sober in 2000, I had like a lot of little, like the bar and the liquor store and like places like that I owed money to. And George got my feet moving. He sent me out to the simple ones, right? Go to the bar and tell them that you ran a tab that you couldn't pay and you're willing to pay it. I'd go in the bar and I didn't go there fighting the drink. I went in there and I told them what I was supposed to tell them, right? And I paid all that money back. And then I went to the liquor store and I told them, I ran this tab and, I couldn't pay it and I need to make it right. And there was a couple that I, kind of put off, and then like God put those people right in my life. I ran into one of my amends at Walmart. He was like standing right there, and I was like, this is the time to do it. And so I went up to him and I said, hey, I'm a member of AA and I'm on my 9th step and I need to make amends. And I did that. And this time I got to do the whole amends process again with my daughters, with the union. I was fortunate to get into the union in 2001. I've been in the trade, the pipe welding trade and all that stuff for a long, long time, but I didn't really know about union work and stuff like that. And I just so happened to be on this job where there's some union guys, and then, they started talking to me and we made friends, and they said, man, you ought to think about getting into the union. And so I was able to come into the union because I had all my pipe certifications and I had all the welding qualifications that you needed. And so I was able to come into the union on permit in 2001. And when I stepped away and got kind of messed up in 2016, I kind of just stopped going to work. And just never really did it the right way. I just kind of stopped showing up. And so in 2019, when I actually got good and sober a couple of years and decided I was going to go back in the union, I called the hall and I made my amends to them. And I talked to the business manager and I told him what happened. And I told him I'm in AA and I'm on my 9th step and I need to make amends and I need to make this right. And the beautiful thing about that was he was more concerned with my well-being than what I had done to walk away from the union. And that meant a lot to me. And so I basically did what I needed to do, and I went back to work the next day. And I've been back ever since. It's a true privilege to be a part of that local 602 out of Washington, D.C. It's a good gig. I get up and I suit up and show up for work every day that I'm supposed to be there. And so with Mom home now, the guys understand that some days I just need to stay home and make sure she's okay and get her. So I really struggled with like the whole breakfast, lunch, and dinner thing. I never really had to cook much. And so I was speared up about that at the beginning, right? I was like, God, I'm going to have to go to the grocery store and figure out what to get to eat and how to cook it and all this stuff. And man, it's, you can Google and YouTube and all this stuff. And so I'm getting better at it. And I'm actually feel good about taking care of Mom now. When I was so feared up about it that I was like, it was crippling me. And she thanks me all the time. And I'll end with this. So a few months ago, she was standing in the kitchen area, and I don't walk over and hug her much because she's so frail. But this one particular time I did, I felt like I needed to give her a hug. And I walked over and I gave my mom a hug, and she hugged me back. And she said, I'm not scared of you anymore. And I said, that's all because of what I do in AA, and that's all because of what God's purpose is for me today. My purpose is to be here and make sure that I can provide for you the best I can. And so my mom is always telling me, thank you for this and thank you for that. And man, what a deal. What a deal that I got from, being a bum, to being a good son and a good dad. And, my daughters tell me all the time, you're the best daddy ever. Like my little girl promised me she's never going to stop calling me daddy. And so she still calls me daddy, and I love that. And we have a great relationship. I have 3 grandkids that I get to spend time with, and And I'm looking forward to the holidays. I used to dread the holidays, but I'm looking forward to that. And it is a true honor and a privilege to be here with you guys tonight. And thank you. Thank you for having me.
Powerful talk. Let's thank Greg one more time. Thank you. This group has an ongoing commitment at a treatment center on a Sunday night. I'm glad you mentioned that because we do go up there. If you're new, there's no requirement. We always say if you got a pulse, come out with us. If you don't know what to say, we'll show you the ropes. It's really powerful. If you've ever been in a rehab or a treatment center, you look forward to what outside people coming in and talking. So see us after the meeting and be part of that there. And what else we got? Just be vigilant for next week. We'll see what happens and tune in. And thanks for coming. If you care to join us, we will close. We'll hold hands. We'll circle up. And then we'll have the meeting after the meeting. Plenty of food over there. Yes. And be mindful that we form a line at the end of the meeting and formally thank him in person because he has traveled here from a long distance for our benefit. Thank you. Take a moment of silence. Use it how you like. And if you care to join us, we will end with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Keep coming back. It works if you work it, so work it, you're worth it.
Thank you very much.